Hey everybody, this is Heather Dewar-Carden coming to you live from Ask Dr. Heather. Sorry I'm late, just ran late at the clinic, but want to say hello to everyone jumping on. Hope you're having an amazing start to your week. It is already Tuesday and spring break starts next week for our kiddos, so I know this week is going to go by super quick. I am the co-owner of Carden Center for Wellness. I'm also the co-chair of Low Carb KC. I'm an independent promoter for the company Prove It. I also am one of their specialists or nutrition keto specialist. I am not here to diagnose or to treat or to give you adverse medical advice. Simply share information on questions that you have asked me to help you really optimize your own health, be your own personal advocate. And guess what? Tonight is thyroid. You guys have asked, and I am here. So this time may be a little bit better. Sarah, thanks for jumping on. So, guys, thyroid is super, super important, and I want to keep it simple and short as always. So let me know where you guys are coming from. I never know where people are. I think everyone's in my own neighborhood. But so I'm just going to briefly explain what the thyroid is, what it does, why it's a bit more complicated, but it is really one of the unsuspected illnesses today. So many times we find thyroid being the culprit, and oftentimes it's because the lab values are incorrect. We're living off the lab ranges, which aren't really what the optimal ranges are. So super quick, the thyroid is located right here, in case you guys didn't know. It is actually the ignition for our body. It helps turn our body on in the morning, and it helps turn our body off at night to go to sleep. So, and I'm going to go through a whole bunch of symptoms and causes just to help you guys kind of better understand, and then I'm going to give you two amazing books that I love. So think about your car. If it's starting, you need a battery, you need gasoline. The better the gasoline, right, the better it's going to start. So we have two fuels. We have carbohydrates or we have ketones. Hopefully you guys are all getting that by now. So we can either have a diet high in carbohydrates. It's a super short fuel source. It doesn't deliver as much oxygen as ketones. It doesn't deliver as much ATP. It doesn't have the signaling component to the rest of the body or the car. So it makes sense if we know that ketones are better signalers. Again, think of that car getting ready to start. It needs the spark plug. It needs the ignition. It needs gasoline. It needs a control panel. Our body is exactly the same. Our brain really sets the tone for everything, but our thyroid turns our body on and off throughout the day. So maybe if your temperature is low, that could be a sign of thyroid because it helps regulate our basal metabolic rate. So people like, I'm always a little cold. I'm always 97. Well, that is actually not a good thing. Just because it's normal for you doesn't mean it's what the body was normally meant to run on, because our body actually kills bacteria, parasites, viruses, funguses, things like that, when our body's actually at a little higher temperature, like 98. So the thyroid's responsible for that. It also helps regulate a lot of metabolic metabolism. So if we think glucose is a short-term fuel, ketones are a better term fuel. We know that ketones deliver 38% more oxygen per molecule. It makes sense that our body is going to start much better and stop much better. Again, think of that baby. It's hungry, it cries, it's full, it's done, it's over. It's tired, it goes to sleep, it wakes up, it's done, it's happy. So we should do the same. We should actually go to bed when we're tired. Our body should crave 7 to 9 hours of sleep. We should wake up feeling refreshed, feet hit the floor, ready to go, happy as sunshine. That is not true, and we all know it. So let me just read some things that could either be hyperthyroid, which is an overactive thyroid, which means your TSH is low. TSH is your thyroid stimulating hormone. Oftentimes, doctors only look at TSH. So think about 20 years ago, we only looked at total cholesterol, and now we look at LDLs, HDLs, lipo-A, little e, LDLs, triglycerides. We look at all the components now. The same is true for thyroid. So we should look at T3, T4, T7, TPO, TSH. We should look at all those thyroid markers because the brain, specifically our hypothalamus, tells our pituitary, I'm visual so I have to point, tells our body to release thyroid stimulating hormone. So it tells our thyroid what to make. Our thyroid gland itself, so our brain tells it what to stimulate. Our thyroid actually makes T3 and T4. It's converted in the liver via iodine. And what happens if you run out of iodine? Your body robs it from your ovaries if you're a female. So there's a lot going on. It's more than just thyroid. It's more than just radiating. It's more than just the TSH, because a low TSH is a hyperthyroid. Optimal level should be 1.8 to 3.0. You're going to see the lab say 0.4 to 5, but I have found that patients really feel better or more optimal where there's no cellular, no tissue changes at 1.8 to 3.0. If your TSH is high, it's a hypothyroid state. The problem is you can get both symptoms at the same time. So you can't tell if it's hyper or hypo because the body's trying to downregulate itself. So if the TSH is low, that means it's hyperthyroid. But if your T3 and T4 are low, that means it's hyperthyroid. So it gets conversed and gets flip-flopped. So a little confusing there, but know that it's just more than the gland. This is the engine. So number one, give your body a better fuel source. If you know it's challenged metabolically because you have eaten a non-great diet, just based on symptoms, or you've overconsumed caffeine, which can override our thyroid. So many things. You've overconsumed dairy that can compete for our body converting T3 to T4. I know people have heard things like cabbage and kohlrabi can interfere with thyroid. Just eat the vegetables. I'm so happy to have people eating vegetables, so I don't get all concerned on that. Soy, yes. Gluten, yes, because iodine, again, converts T3 to T4. The thyroid will take that iodine from the ovaries. You guys got it. But think about that chemistry chart where we have those inert gases. We have bromide, halogen, chloride, right? So if you have a gluten sensitivity, or if you're over bombarding your body with gluten or chloride, think about that. We're bathing it. It's in the water. The body will sometimes be deficient in iodine because we've stripped it from our foods. We're not eating enough iodine-rich foods. We've taken it out of our salt, out of our water, out of our bread, out of whatever you want to talk about. We are iodine deficient. What's the body to do? Well, it kind of robs from Peter to pay Paul, and then it will take an imitator like bromine, which comes from wheat, right? Bromide is wheat, or chlorine, which we get from the water and stuff that we drink. So here's some symptoms. So I will run through them fast because there is like a big list. So I'm cheating with some notes today, but unexplained weight gain for sure is the first sign of thyroid. Actually, I'm going to tell you it's fatigue. So unexplained fatigue. You're not anemic. You're sleeping hours. You're eating great. Definitely, we can say that fatigue is one of the first signs. Unexplained weight gain, because again, the body's going to store fuel for a rainy day if it's hypothyroid. Cold intolerance, like you just can't stand the cold. You have to wear socks all summer long, no matter what the temperature is. Your hands are always cold. Your nose is cold. Your fingers are cold. It's because that's a fight or flight response for your thyroid. It's conserving all the energy for your brain and for your heart. That definitely means the engine is not running correct. Elevated cholesterol, if your metabolism is stuck, you can get elevated triglycerides. This means up, not number one. You can get elevated cholesterol. You can get elevated triglycerides. You can actually get neuropathies. You can get something, cold hands, cold feet. All that stuff can happen when your thyroid's out of balance. Definitely get menstrual irregularities. We talked about the thyroid needing iodine to convert T3 to T4. Remember, the thyroid makes the T3 and T4 hormone, but the liver converts T3 to T4 via iodine. If you're iodine deficient because you're not eating enough or it's been stripped out of our diet, then again, it's going to start robbing from our ovaries. You can get polycystic ovarian disease without having high testosterone. You can get lots of other type of things happening in the body. It can also cause premature miscarriages because the body's got to be a 98-degree oven. We all took that little class in kindergarten. We put the light bulb over the eggs, and almost all the eggs turned into chickens via the light bulb. So if your thyroid is not at 98 degrees, it's sub 96, 97, that can mean maybe you're not ovulating or your body doesn't stay warm enough to help hatch that egg. So that can be a real thing. Dry, rough skin. Yes, it could be a vitamin D deficiency, magnesium deficiency, low fat in your diet. It can also be thyroid. It can also be hair loss. Hair loss can also be protein deficiency. So the list is long, but again, you just kind of say, well, I've got a lot of those things. Those sound right. Or, I'm eating enough protein, maybe not digesting it. So that can cause it. Grooves in your fingernails are a sign also of a zinc deficiency, your thyroid being out of balance, because our body does take amino acids and help our thyroid and help make our hair and nails. Fatigue, depression, and weakness. I can't tell you how many times I have seen patients, even young girls who are put on birth control or antidepressants, and their thyroid's out of balance. We treat their thyroid, we shift their diet from the garbage to a healthier, clean eating diet, add some iodine in there, and once you know their body's normal, everything's regulating out. Super, super important. So fatigue and depression are one of the first two signs to appear. Difficulty concentrating. If your engine, our ignition's always stopping and starting like that old jalopy. I grew up on a farm, so we had a lot of stuff stuck and not always working quite right. But that choke is stuck on that car, that tractor. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to have difficulty concentrating. You're going to have memory lapses. Some of that people get eye swelling around their eyes, kind of like puffy. They can actually have visual changes. Muscle stiffness, joint stiffness, all thyroid, because again, it stops that conversion of some of the cholesterol hormones, and we need that fat to help lubricate our joints. We also know that constipation, because again, if it regulates our metabolic rate, and if our metabolic rate isn't right, it makes sense that our bowels are not going to evacuate like they should. Our cholesterol is not going to clean out. It's going to go higher. Our triglycerides are going to go higher, even with a clean diet. We can also get, if we get hyperthyroid, you can get lots of palpitations in your heart, especially when you're trying to lie down and go to bed at night. Think about that. So you lay down to go to bed. It's supposed to shut off. But again, it's like the old jalopy that just won't shut off like the choke is hot. That happens also to our heart. So you'll get some cardiac output that will give you some tachycardia or sometimes some increased pulse rate throughout the day. Like you simply walk up the stairs to go to the laundry room or go to your kid's room and you're out of breath. Absolutely can be thyroid undiscovered. Also, loss of appetite or anorexia. It's the same word, just not being hungry at all. Because again, this is the ignition for our body. If it's stuck on or stuck off, it's not going to tell you that it needs food. It's going to start to conserve energy. So hands get cold, feet get cold, and then hands and feet start to get dry. It says, hey, forget the hair. Let's go ahead and conserve it for other important things. You can also get abdominal distension. You can get behavior changes like mood swings. Because again, think if your car is not turning on all day and it's turning off, or you're eating 6 mini meals a day, your thyroid has a lot of work to do because there's more nerves in our gut than actually in our spinal cord. So if we're constantly overfeeding, then that makes sense that our engine's having to go and go and go. Just think if you stopped at a gas station like 6 times a day and you drove the same mileage every day, you're overutilizing that because our brain, sorry, I'm getting lots of text here. Our brain actually tells our TSH what to do. So how can this happen? How can our thyroid get out of balance? And again, why is our doctor not catching it? So 2 of the great books, I have read this book cover to cover. It is, I know it's backwards, guys. It is from Dr. Burns, and it is Hypothyroid, The Unexpected Illness. Great, great information here. And then Dr. Brownstein has got 2 great books out. He's an MD, Dr. Brownstein. So it is called Thyroid, the Undiscovered Disorder. So we're overcoming thyroid disorder. He's actually got 3 books out here. So I just grabbed a couple from the office. But, you know, he talks a lot about gut health, brain health, because, again, we think about what our engine does, our thyroid does. It turns on our body. So if we can't get it to turn on and stay on, or we can't get it to turn off and stay off, then you're waking up every 80 to 90 minutes at night. You can't tell if you're hungry. You can't tell if you're full. You can't tell if you're tired. How does this happen? Well, over iodine radiation, heavy metal toxicity, just being deficient in iodine, having an overstressed nervous system. We know our limbic system is the emotional part of our brain that tells our hypothalamus what to do. The hypothalamus tells the pituitary, hey, release that thyroid stimulating hormone. In a state of shock, whether your house burned down, you got bankrupt, you lost your job, your cat died, your body goes into a fight or flight or shock state, it actually can stop the thyroid from turning on or off. So people will confuse fatigue and depression for just that depression, but it actually can be a thyroid condition that's just subacute or subclinical, not truly showing up yet. There's no nodules yet. There's no cancer yet. But again, it's not running like it should. You know, too many xenohormones, eating plastic, boiling food out of plastic. You know, I know we've all cooked on stuff we shouldn't have cooked with. Some people's bodies are going to be more sensitive than other ones. And we also, so the plastic stuff, drinking out of plastic water bottles, microwaving in plastic, baking in those plastic to-go stuff, storing food in plastics, not eating enough green leafy vegetables, not eating enough high-fat, moderate-protein foods, again, too much garbage. All that can cause that, can cause an inadequate result of your body's inability to make thyroid hormone. The thyroid really protects our body overall. So if I'm in a car wreck with Britt Nicole Lawrence, I see her there. If I'm in a car wreck and say she's next to me and we have maybe one of my sons, Isaac, and Isaac dies. He dies in the car wreck. This is not going to happen. My body goes into shock. I haven't had any physical injuries, but my pulse will drop, my blood pressure will drop, I could get tachycardia, my hands will get cold because it's a safety thing. So your body will protect itself. So even in emotional situations, test anxiety, performance anxiety, even, you know, you're afraid of spiders or traveling, all that is that autonomic nervous system telling your thyroid, hey, don't overstimulate that because it's a thyroid stimulating hormone. Oftentimes, again, people are getting more progressive. We only look at the TSH. It does not tell the whole story. Again, it's converted in the liver. So if you have high cholesterol, high triglycerides, you know, your ALT or SLT, those liver enzymes are high. Are you on a lot of medication or you're eating terrible? Or this is the worst scenario, you're working a swing shift. And if you're working those swing shifts, which I know pilots and nurses, people that work at grocery stores, I guess everybody has a potential because now all the grocery stores are open 24/7. That really messes up your body's circadian rhythm. Your thyroid is super confused what to do. So you can actually get a TSH that's hyper. You can get a T4 and T4 that are hypo because it's trying to create this kind of tug of war and really, really protect the body. So What is the fix, right? First, just watching my time, I've got a call in about 8 minutes, so I want to be super quick. And thank you guys for joining me. And tomorrow I have a super special treat. We're going to talk about sleep from a kind of sleep specialist, so super excited. No, actually, you know what? We're going to hear from Josh Collins tomorrow. We're going to hear from him tomorrow. So I think 3 or 4 o'clock, I'll post that. So what do we do to fix it? First, get the real story. So get a full diagnosis, get the T3, T4, T4 total, T7, TSH, TPO. I know I said them fast. You can go back. It's just called a thyroid panel. Also see what your sodium potassium are doing, because that's your adrenal glands. Your adrenal gland is the engine, the thyroid is ignition. Those are sister organs. You got to see what they're doing to go to get them to coordinate together. Think of a car again. You could have brand new car, brand new battery, no gasoline, no go. Or maybe a full tank of gas, battery dead, no go, right? The signaling can't happen. That's the same thing with the thyroid and the adrenal glands. They all help each other run together. The stimulation all comes from your brain. Don't forget that our brain also has that limbic system, which is our emotional system, that has a lot to do with the signaling potential of our body. That's why you see depression, mood shift, mood change, lacks of concentration, bloating of the eyes, bloating of the gut, all that because the engine doesn't know if it should turn off, should it stop as your crisis, is there not crisis? Well, I've been here before. So again, there's a lot to be said with that. And again, we're really iodine deficient in our foods that we eat. We're missing our topsoil. We're overstressed. We eat, we're not hungry. We are hungry, so we're telling our thyroid, well, are you not running the show? Because my emotion system's running the show of when to eat and when to drink, or my lifestyle's running the show. I'm not letting my body in tune tell me when I need to feed and when I don't need to feed. So hopefully you guys got some value out of tonight. I didn't see a bunch of questions there, so which is great. Yes, Pam, if you do not have a thyroid, you absolutely need to have those panel done. Like we talk about, you take out the thyroid, well, you still have a pituitary, which is signaling TSH. You still have a liver, which knows how to convert T3 and T4. You just don't have the thyroid to make T3 and T4 hormones. So absolutely, and get a TPO, which is a thyroid peroxidase antibody that will tell you if you're in a Graves or Hashimoto's system. So lots of great information. Again, I always refer to Dr. Brownstein. He's got 2 or 3 books out. I've had success with people having big goiters. We change the diet. We do the right mineral component, first diagnosing the right test. Again, I'm not giving you any medical advice. I'm simply sharing what is happening. And I agree with Dr. Brownstein. They found in a large population of people who died of cancer that they actually had unsuspected or undiagnosed thyroid cancer, to ovarian cancer, to testicular cancer, to other type of cancers, adrenal cancer. So it's super important to get that checked out. It should be a part of your normal blood work, along with getting your magnesium and your lipids checked and your CBC. So Selena is asking me, drinking ketones help with thyroid. So Selena, I do the ketone questions on the Prove It Facebook Live tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. But we did talk about that right in the beginning. I think you jumped on late. We talked about when you feed your body our native fuel source, or ketones, that provide more oxygen, more ATP. They're not inflammatory. They're signalers for our brain. Carbohydrates are not signalers. Proteins are not signalers. Protein don't optimize oxygen to the cell. Carbohydrates don't optimize protein to the cell. Carbohydrates don't optimize ATP or oxygen, but ketones do. So when you put in a better fuel source, that's why eating organic, eating as clean as possible, all those things are super important when you're talking about feeding your body, getting it running for the day, and getting it to shut down for the day. Because so many people have problems sleeping, it's because the thyroid's confused. We've overstimulated it all day long. We've overfed all day long. Now it doesn't know what to do, and it kind of gets that burnout syndrome. So it's kind of like never tuning up your car and never changing the spark plugs and using a very suboptimal gas and buying the cheapest battery around on an elite vehicle, because this is the only vehicle we get, right? By the time we are born or womb to tomb, only vehicle. So it's never too late. If you've had thyroid health, please connect with a healthcare physician that's a functional medicine doctor that actually specializes in endocrine or functional medicine for helping heal your thyroid. Again, I'm not here to diagnose or treat. I do get a ton of thyroid questions because people have all the symptoms like I read, but their doctors are saying, well, your labs are normal. Are you in reference range and you do not have a disease? Absolutely, if it's between 0.5 and 5.4, but optimally that TSH should be 1.8. I'm not going to go through the other markers of T3 and T4 where they should be, but if you're having those signs, then I would say interview a healthcare provider and get with someone who meets your needs, who actually helps you identify those imbalances and helps get you started on the right foot. And don't only look at the thyroid. Remember, it's actually T3 and T4 are the hormones converted in the liver via iodine. So if you're craving salt, feed your body salt. It may tell you it needs more iodine. More sea fish foods, those type of things have higher sodium, higher iodine in them. Iodine-rich foods are also some of the shellfish like mussels and oysters. Celery. I love people just juicing 3 or 4 sticks of celery with a little bit of ginger. It's a great tonic for your body, for your adrenal, and for your thyroid. So that's a great thing you can implement in. Definitely take away milk. You can go to notmilk.com and you can see all the information about thyroid, thyroid cancer, hyperthyroid, Graves' disease, Hashimoto's, and milk. So the milk casein molecule is not happy or not friendly with the thyroid. So that's the first thing we generally do is we cut out dairy except for butter and ghee, and we reduce soy or eliminate soy altogether, and then we reduce the garbage, and then your body actually can start running better. So if you have a problem with your thyroid, any of those things kind of signal the fact like, hey, that could be me, pick up the books. You can probably get them online or rent them. Get with a healthcare practitioner that meets your needs. Again, 2 great books here. You guys can read them. And I will actually put them up above. So Dr. David Brownstein is an MD. He's got, I think, 3 books now about overcoming thyroid disorders, thyroid, the unsuspected disease, the underdiagnosed disease. The other one is hypothyroid, the unsuspected illness by Dr. Broda Barnes. So great book by Dr. Broda Barnes. So I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. I made it. I was less than 15, 20 minutes. I want to be super short and sweet. And thank you guys for joining me. I'll be on tomorrow with Delta Force operator veteran Josh Collins, and then we will be on Thursday night talking about sleep and how to optimize your sleep, get your own circadian rhythm back, which will also help your thyroid and adrenal glands and give you some tips and tools to help your body get started sleeping better, because sleep is the secret weapon. You guys have an amazing day, and I will see you tomorrow.